John Fanta covers college basketball, Fox, and of course has been with us before. His knowledge of not just the Northeast, the Big East, and others, but his knowledge of college basketball, broadcaster with Fox, joins us sick on 365 Radio and 365 Sports. So, John, at least off the top, we've discussed the Michigan-Wisconsin postgame quite a bit. Want to get into what you see most every day, but what do you think in the end might happen to either of the coaches, the players, or what?
Well, I think starting with the coaches, and guys, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me. Love your work. I think beginning with the coaches, both failed to act as adults. You're talking about two people who are the front porch of their respective universities. They are two of the highest paid employees at said school. And when you do what they did, you need to get punished. And I think with Greg Gard, I think we're looking at something like 2, maybe 3 games. I think with Juwan Howard, I think we're looking at something like 5 games. And potentially something financially. I don't think either should be fired. I think that's ridiculous. The sun came up today, and it's going to come up tomorrow. A mistake was made. An altercation occurred. I think what the Big Ten has to be weighing right now in their legal office is what the final judgment is with Moussa Diabate, with Jacoby Neese, with the players involved here. And I hope that the players are not suspended any more than 2 games max. And I'll tell you why. The players are a direct reflection of their leaders. They are 18 to 22-year-old kids. We have to remember that. And the first thing you do as a player when the game ends is you go into the line behind your head coach and you shake the other team's hand. And that should never go away, for the record. The idea of that getting tossed by the wayside literally defeats the purpose of competition to begin with. The players yesterday were a direct reflection of their coaches who failed to lead. And so if you are in the middle of an altercation, you then have to fight for yourself and your teammates. And that's what led to people going at each other on the court and to a pretty disturbing scene occurring in Madison. So I hope that the Big Ten Conference, a well-run league, these 2 well-run institutions at the end of the day, I hope that they do not penalize the kids more than they should be penalized. Because this goes back to adults that did not act like adults, and they should be punished accordingly.
John, you saw the top 16 reveal this week from the NCAA. Did you think anything was surprising or did they miss anybody?
Well, I think that the big takeaway on Saturday was that Kentucky went to Kansas and blew them out, and that Kentucky's behind Kansas in the East region in that reveal. But Kansas has a combined 15 Quad 1 and Quad 2 victories. They have 10 Quadrant 1 wins. And the Big 12 Conference is the best conference in college basketball. I know that your listeners would agree. Kansas deserves to be on the 1 line. They do. But I think that surprised people. I also think that Tennessee was a little bit higher than I expected. I don't think Tennessee is going to end up being a top 3 seed in the NCAA tournament. I think they're a lot closer to 5 than they are to 3, and they were on the 3 line. So they might end up with a 4. But I did not like the fact that they were on the 3 line, to be candidly honest with you. I don't love them to that degree. I thought that everything looked pretty appropriate to me. You know, Texas has been teetering between the 4 and the 5, but it's not like there's a team that was left out that makes me say, man, they should be in. Guys, the committee said on Saturday that Ohio State and Houston were highly considered. Well, Houston's not playing like a top 16 team in the country. Very unfortunate for them because of the injuries, but it's the sad reality. Ohio State lost at home on Saturday and in pretty commanding fashion to Iowa, a team that has been hovering around the bubble but shouldn't be today. So I think that the committee got this right. I think the committee's hardest job will once again come in determining who's in and who's out. Because you have a season this year where the WCC has had a better year than the ACC, where the Mountain West Conference might be on par with the Pac-12. So who gets in? And I think the biggest question for the committee, because the gut just says this to me, gentlemen, is will North Carolina make it? Will North Carolina make it? If I had to vote, would vote no. They lost at home to Pittsburgh last week, and the overall body of work is not good enough to negate that. If they lose to Duke on the last Saturday of the regular season, and they sit here and one of their calling card wins is at Virginia Tech, and they don't have a whole bunch of a non-conference body of work. They beat Michigan, who's also on the bubble and could miss out based on the current circumstances of Michigan's situation. This is going to be the ultimate test of, will the committee float out the UNC brand out of their heads when they're making a selection? Because people think that matters. And I think there's cases that could be said that they do. Or will the committee go against the grain and put a San Francisco in, or put a San Diego State in, or give that Western team that's closer to a mid-major than the Power Five a bit? That is what's going to be really, really interesting to watch happen for this committee. They pretty much got the top 6 team right. It's getting the last 6 team right that's going to impress or not impress us.
John, right now Providence leading in the Big East, 1-game lead over Villanova. Villanova and UConn coming up tomorrow night in Hartford. Your thoughts on the Big East lay of the land and of course, this big matchup tomorrow?
Well, let's see matchup tomorrow. Villanova took the first meeting between these two teams in a pretty commanding performance without Justin Moore. And the reason why Villanova was able to control UConn is Villanova took away Connecticut's best player. That is number 21, the big man from Mali, Adama Sanogo. UConn needs Sanogo to be the centerpiece in the rematch. They got to get him involved early. They got to keep him out of foul trouble against who might be the most improved player in the Big East, Eric Dixon, a redshirt sophomore who's really come on this season. But I think for Connecticut, they have got to flow offensively to have a chance in this game. In the first meeting with Villanova, R.J. Cole had 25 points, but the lead guard can't do it all. Actually, when his usage rate lowers a little bit, it helps everybody around because it means that others are getting involved. So they need their supporting cast to deliver, and they need the wing Tyrese Martin, the senior, to really step up in this game. But guys, Villanova's playing as well as anybody in the country right now. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys were able to watch Villanova Providence last week, but what a high level basketball game, and Villanova found a way to win. Colin Gillespie goes for 33. He's playing as well as any guard in the sport right now. So, look, these are two terrific defensive teams. Villanova only allows 63 points per game. UConn allows 65. I expect a war. I think the XL Center is going to be rocking. And it's the biggest UConn home game since maybe Kemba Walker. Like you'd have to go back to that time, at least in the Big East Conference. Because they were out of it for a period of time. They just haven't hosted many games of this caliber because the American didn't present the same level of game. So this is a huge top 25 showdown. And in terms of Providence, what more can you say about a team that was picked 7th in their league, a team that I thought would be a bubble team at best this year? They're 22-3 and 12-2 in the Big East. So here's their pathway. Home to Xavier, a Xavier team that's lost 4 or 5. Home to Creighton, a Creighton team that's actually won 5 in a row. That's Saturday night. And then at Villanova next Tuesday. The cards are on the table, and for one time only, Providence fans will be rooting for UConn on Tuesday night.
Yep. And then now one more thing, John, and the Marquette seems to be in a little bit of a free fall. Shaka's had a good year, but they're kind of, are they drowning?
Yeah, I think that they're a team. I don't think they're drowning. I think that they've just gone underwater and they can get back up. I still think that they can swim. I really do. And the reason why I say it is they just play so hard. And I think that they were due for a lull. they were due for a lull, and then that lull has occurred. But I still like this team makeup overall. I think they were probably outperforming their weight class. I think they're a team that could be anywhere from a 6 seed to a 10 seed. They're a team with a high level of variance. But you go to Creighton on Sunday, you lose the game by a point to a Creighton team that's really hot. Look for Marquette to get back on track this week. They have a bye. The bye comes at the right time. You know, the bye comes at the right time. They're hosting Butler on Saturday. That's a game that I think they win. Then you're at DePaul before you host St. John. You know, we could go into the Big East tournament saying, oh, now they've won 3 in a row. They've won 4 of their last 5. So I don't think this team is thinking. I just think a rough schedule in a league that could send 7 teams to the NCAA tournament just caught up with them a little bit. But make no mistake about it. If their backcourt's in sync, Daryl Morcell, Cam Jones, Greg Elliott, and Tyler Kolek, if those guys are able to create some balance on the perimeter, it all revolves around then the powerful forward in Justin Lewis, redshirt freshman who's been terrific with 17 and 8 per game. He's playing like a young Jay Crowder.
John, if anyone can't tell, the passion you have for college basketball is enormous. We appreciate you, man. Appreciate your time, play-by-play. College basketball on Fox at John_Fanta. He doesn't just cover the Big East. He covers all of the country. Thanks for your time as well. Always great to have John Fanta on the show. And the Big East, man, I'm telling you, Villanova with UConn and with what happens with Providence, that game last week that had a packed house at the Dunkin' Donuts Center, and obviously Marquette trying to get themselves back on track. It's been a good run for them. And Shaka Smart. Win.